Hey Cootie Crew, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a look into the RV life. We've been here for almost a year, and 2 weeks from now it will have been 1 year since we moved into this spot here with the RV. So I wanted to go over just kind of what we've learned, what the experience has been like our first year living in an RV full-time. If you've watched my other RV related videos, you probably already know this, but we had zero experience operating an RV before we decided to move into one. I had been in one on a couple family trips, but I wasn't really in charge of them. I already have a video on the top 5 adjustments we made to moving into an RV, and I'll briefly go over those same topics along with a ton of other insight on just kind of what it's been like day to day for us as we went from living in a house to living in an RV full-time. First off, we did renovate this RV before we moved into it. So when we got it, it looked totally different than it does now, and we made a lot of changes before we even moved in at all, just to make it more livable for our family here. And then once we moved in, of course, we made even more adjustments after we kind of got used to what it was like and what we needed or didn't need and things like that. One thing to keep in mind is that we are stationary, so we park our RV at an RV park. We don't move around with it. There are a lot of people who travel full-time in their RV, and that's not really our situation. When we first got it, we were planning to move with the RV every few months and travel to different cities. But nothing about the last 2 years has gone to plan, as I'm sure everybody understands given how 2020 went. Plans change. So the first thing to touch on is all of the repairs that we've made. We got this RV in amazing shape. So first of all, we were so thrilled that we got this in such great shape and from owners who had been taking such good care of it while they had it. And we still had some repairs to make after we moved in. I just want to start with this because I watched so many RV life YouTubers and just following along with other people who had moved into RVs full time. And basically it seems like everything broke for them once they moved in. And we were hoping that wouldn't be the case for us, because this RV was in such amazing shape. But still, we have had to make quite a few repairs in the last year. Right off the bat, once we moved in, the fridge would not work. Just straight up. I was living in here for about 2 weeks by myself before my husband and the pets moved in. And I think for the first month that we were in here, we were just packing the fridge full of ice to be able to store food in it, but it wasn't actually working. That was a renovation error on our part. And it just took a small replacement of a part for the refrigerator, and then it was working totally fine. But right off the bat, we moved in, something wasn't working. We had to replace the floors around the shower twice, actually, and then treat the floors and the wood underneath the shower. It turns out it was a small, like really small leak in the outdoor shower. So thankfully, we caught it in time before it caused any major issues, but that did happen. That was after a couple months of us being here. The pressure gauge that we had been using actually broke, but we didn't know that. And that led to a small leak in the outdoor shower connection, which is near but not exactly under where the actual shower is. We are on our 3rd microwave, believe it or not, in 1 year. The first microwave was the microwave that came with the RV, and it had some quirks to it, like it would just show some really random numbers. Sometimes we didn't think too much of it until it turned itself on one day. It turned out to be a known defect for that specific microwave, so we got rid of it. We got a replacement. The replacement didn't exactly fit the same hole because this RV was 16-ish years old, and they didn't make that same microwave anymore, so we got the closest thing and just put it in the section where the microwave used to be. Since we're stationary, we figured we had some time before we needed to really secure it in place. Flash forward like 6 months, and we had totally forgotten to do that to the microwave. And then we were taking the house out to get new tires and an oil change and just some maintenance on it just in case. And wouldn't you know it, the unsecured microwave came flying out of the microwave slot and shattered all over the floor. So now we're on our 3rd microwave, which we will definitely be securing. And then just a week or 2 ago, after we did that whole changing of the tires and the oil and everything, we ended up with a small crack, which led to a really small leak, but still a leak, which is no good, over the slide out above the couch. That was a really quick and easy fix. One positive, though, of living in the RV is just that we've gotten so fond of the simple and minimal lifestyle that came along with the RV. When we first got married many, many years ago, we had a really small studio house that we were living in, and we ended up downsizing a ton of our stuff when we lived there, and actually really enjoyed the smaller space, the less things. And when we moved into there, we already downsized a ton of stuff and really enjoyed having less clutter. And then once we moved into our real house, what we call it, we were there for 2 years only, but we accumulated so much stuff. And what's crazy is that I would have said that we didn't have much stuff. I would have said that until we started to downsize, move into the RV, and got rid of so much stuff. It was ridiculous. And then after we moved into the RV, we actually got rid of more things and are still actively decluttering to this day. Like, even right now, I have a small box of things in my trunk which are gonna find new homes. It's just really freeing to have less clutter and less stuff. Not only does it make it easier to find things that you're looking for, but you don't have to worry about things that you never use. And I think once you know, and you've lived it and you've experienced it, you know how freeing it is. I think most people are afraid to declutter because they're so used to certain things and don't realize that it's actually pretty easy to adjust to not having them, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to be preachy here. It's just like, downsizing has been so nice, and I don't think we've missed any stuff. Like, we miss things like a bigger kitchen or a real shower, but not our stuff. And just having the smaller space keeps us from buying things without being super intentional about it, so we're not accumulating as much stuff. It's just really freeing. I don't know how else to say it. And maybe I don't have a cupcake tin anymore, but you know how many times I've gone to make cupcakes this year? Zero times I've been like, oh my gosh, I need to make cupcakes. We really like having less stuff. That's the long and short of that. It's been really nice. Cleaning, something I've definitely gone over multiple times already, so I'll be very brief in this video. But we have adjusted to having a very different cleaning routine in that we clean more often, like we clean every single day, but it takes maybe 5 minutes for most of the tasks. Like cleaning the floor, I timed myself once at 3 minutes for the quick sweep and vacuum of the floor because it's so small. Tidying up is really easy because normally by the time it feels busy or cluttered or dirty, there's maybe, like 2 to 5 things out of place, and then you just put them away and you're done. I've voiced my hatred of doing dishes many times to many people. But again, it's just part of the routine now, and really it doesn't even take that long to do them. I just don't like doing dishes. But we've both just kind of learned to put on a video and just do the dishes while you're listening to something, and then it's over, 15-20 minutes. It's really not that bad. As I mentioned earlier, because RVs aren't meant to be lived in full-time, there were a couple adjustments that we made after we moved in once we realized certain things that needed to be adjusted. First of all, the blackout curtains we have, before they had these like multi-shade curtains so you could let in less light or more light, but basically either way, light was getting in and there was just less privacy with that. So we added blackout curtains, which we had to custom sew ourselves just because they don't have blackout curtains made for the size of the RV windows that we have. We added some extra propane tanks outside so we would get propane less often in the cold months. In the summer, we didn't use almost any propane, which was crazy. We added insulation to the slide outs and the windows, again, just for the cold months. But for right now, because we have the extra insulation over the windows, because it's winter, we can't open the windows, even though on a day like today, which is beautiful and gorgeous, I would want to open the windows. We just can't, because then we'd have to do it all over again. We replaced the shower. It was its accordion door, and because it's, they didn't plan for someone to be showering in it every single day, once or twice a day, it traps moisture and was not really great after a while. Like, we were cleaning it all the time and there would still be like mildew and stuff because of just the grooves in the shower and it just having trapped moisture in it pretty much all the time, which was gross. So instead, we opted for this really quick, like $25 fix to put in a shower liner with some hooks And that's it. That's what we use now. It's so much better because it doesn't have all those nooks and crannies to trap moisture. And then it's machine washable, so whenever it needs to get cleaned, we just take it down, throw it in the wash, and we're done. Now the smaller space, living in a smaller space, like this is really small. I know I said we lived in a smaller house when we first got married, but this is small. Overall, it's fine. For us. I mean, for some people it might drive you crazy, but for the two of us and our pets, it's been fine to have this much space. Just because of our personalities and our lifestyles, it hasn't really felt like too terrible. I will say though that 2020 was a difficult year to start RV life because normally I go on like short weekend trips all the time, and I haven't been able to do that. So I did kind of start to get a little stir crazy in the last like month or two. Just in general, I need to get out of the house a lot, and it's just harder to do that these days. Not impossible, just harder. But overall, the small space hasn't bothered us too much, but every now and then there will be a day where we really, really miss having rooms. For instance, like filming for YouTube, I can only do when my husband's out of the house because it takes up in this entire bedroom area for the setup. And then on top of it, because there's such an enclosed space, if he makes any sort of noise, you guys are gonna hear it. Anything, typing on his computer, you're gonna hear it. Grunting, eating, you're gonna hear it. And on top of it, he can't use half of the RV when I'm filming, and the only thing he'd be able to do over there, he'd be able to hear. Plus I have to disassemble and reassemble my entire setup. Just for hobbies in general, it's difficult to have a small space because we can't leave anything out or have a dedicated space for things. Like when we had the house, I had my YouTube set up and it was just in this corner, and it was really easy. The tripod was always in the same place. The lighting was always the same. And in here, that's not really the case because again, I have to take it down every time and put it back up and take up this entire room just to try and get it as close to correct as possible. And then just because of, you know, the weird year we've had, we've been doing a lot of like group video calls, or my husband's had some work from home days. And in those cases, one of us is restricted to half of the RV, which again, really isn't that much space. We also have to plan how we're going to use the space. So like, for instance, I wanted to film today. So I have to be ready and set up for as soon as my husband goes grocery shopping, I'm filming. Otherwise, there's not gonna be any other time for me to do it. Same for like if we want to work out or do something in the living area, we have to let each other know what we're planning to do that day so that we don't get frustrated with each other when someone is laying on the floor doing crunches and the other person is trying to cook. But again, like these haven't really been huge pain points because we've just kind of learned to adjust to them, and it's been pretty fine. Maybe once a month something happens where we get frustrated because of the lack of space. But so I asked my husband what his input was on living in the RV, and one of the things he said about having the small space that he had an issue with is that he hits his head all the time. I mean, he's 6 inches taller than I am, so it makes more sense because I have plenty of room before I hit the ceiling and things like that. But for him, it's more difficult, and the cabinets are right at like his forehead level, so he ends up hitting his head. Or like the steps out the front door. I was like, don't. Anyway. And I know I just voiced a ton of adjustments that we've made and like some things that are more difficult than living in a regular house. But again, we don't really worry too much about these things because we've been in here for a year. We've made all of these adjustments. We've kind of gotten used to these things and the dynamics of it. And overall, I'd say over 90% of the time, it's fine. I think for anyone considering it, as long as you're adaptable, you can make things work. And that's just a bit. You have to be flexible and adaptable and kind of make changes along the way. Another cool thing that's come out of us living in this RV is being more sustainable, because we have to be more conscious of the resources we're using, like hot water or water in general, or propane. We've also gotten some more eco-friendly items that previous to this I thought, okay, that would be so cool to do, like that's a great idea, it's better for the planet. But just having the smaller space, it also is more of like a driving force to actually make those changes. You know, like we got the environmentally friendly like laundry sheets instead of the laundry detergent, which is better for the planet. And it also makes our lives easier because it takes up so much less space and it's way easier to carry those to the laundromat and back. using more towels and buying less paper towels, because then we have to store all of those paper towels. Feminine hygiene products, again, I've way reduced just the amount of waste I have from those, just because it's been a big driving force to not have to take up so much space to have those supplies. Even smaller changes like doing laundry less often, because we don't just have our own washer and dryer at hand, so we don't do laundry just kind of like whenever. We have planned laundry days and we only do like 1 or 2 loads of laundry every week. Washing the dishes by hand takes up less water, and less electricity is needed to run this thing. Like, our electric bill is almost nothing. It's ridiculous. So again, those are just kind of like unplanned side effects. I wouldn't say we were particularly wasteful before this, but it's just been that extra kick in the pants to make some more changes towards becoming more environmentally friendly. So to wrap up this video, I would say overall in the past year, we've totally adjusted, and this is just kind of our new normal to live in the RV. Where sometimes along the way where we had to figure things out, but we've just kind of gotten used to it and used to the space and how it works. And it is a heck of a lot cheaper in the area of the US where we live to be living this way than renting an apartment or a house. So yeah, that's our first year living in the RV. Thank you guys for watching. I know this was a bit of a longer video because it covered so much. It was cool to summarize where we started versus where we are now, and everything that's kind of happened along the way and ways we've changed our lifestyle. I don't know, it's just kind of fun to look back at it. Hopefully this was useful to maybe someone out there, or informative or entertaining or something like that. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. You can check out all the other videos on my channel, and I also have an RV life playlist with a couple other videos. As always, the comment section is open to you guys for sharing your own experiences, pro tips, feedback. Ask questions. Any questions you have, you're welcome to ask them in the comments. If you want to stay tuned for future videos, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next time. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Life is short. Just do the thing.